Okay, I think we'll get started. And I know that there'll be people joining online, but also in person. I know that there's a few people that are not here that said they would be here. So I just wanted to start, first of all, just by acknowledging that we are on the unceded territory of the Mi'kmaqi, and we would like to pay respect and show respect to elders past and present. We're really happy. My name is Don Quarles. I'm the chair, the volunteer chair of the Heart of PEI initiative, which now I think we're in our really third year, if I'm not mistaken. I can't even count now. But we've been working hard with, it's a chamber, Kensington and Area Chamber of Commerce led project that's been, we've been working with, I guess it would be easier if I did this, right? Okay, much better. Oh my gosh. We've been working closely with the town of Kensington, Central Coastal Tourism, and of course the Kensington and Area Chamber of Commerce to develop I'll just say a tourism strategy over the next 5 years. And I think it will go beyond that because I think we've really developed some great inroads with tourism operators and stakeholders. So remember that Heart of PEI is a volunteer initiative. So most of the people that are in this room that have been helping out are volunteers, not unlike a board of directors. They work hard. They are certainly, we're all on the same page in terms of initiatives and encouraging traffic in this area. So for those of you who don't know the area, Kensington is 5 roads, used to be called 5 Lanes End. In fact, that's what the name of the town was. And so the Heart of PEI geographically covers quite a broad area. In fact, where all those roads go out to, everywhere from Stanley Bridge to Alpec to Kincora, Freetown, and everywhere in between. So it covers quite a large area. And for those of you that know, there's lots of dirt roads, paths, trails, and obviously municipal and provincial roads as well. So it's quite a broad area, covers both North and South Shores. And we're really proud of the work that we've done so far. A lot of art installations. You'll probably see also some signage, some community signage, welcoming people to the Heart of PEI. So without further ado, what I would like to do, this session, we do have an agenda, which you've got on your tables, but essentially we've got some amazing panelists that we're going to bring in, some of which who are not here physically, that are off island or unable to be here for this session, but we're going to bring some people in to chat about a number of different initiatives that we're just going to open the floor for discussion. So it will be a fairly casual conversation. There is a microphone in the room, so I just want to let everyone know here that's present that if you do have a question, we'll probably try and save them till the end of panels. But if you have a burning question, don't be afraid to just go up to the mic, and I'll make sure that I get you acknowledged. For those of you who need Wi-Fi, not at home, because hopefully you have Wi-Fi at home, go to the Legion 5, and that it's an open Wi-Fi network. So what I would like to do, I'm going to go around the room with a microphone, and I would love you to just introduce yourself, your name, your business or operation, or your interest in being here. Make it real short and sweet, because through the discussions, I hope that we'll get more information out later. So let me do that. My name's Don Quarles. Oh, I just did that. My name's Don Quarles, and not only am I the volunteer chair of Heart of PEI, but I also help my sweetheart, Crystal Stevens, who owns a business called Red Rocks Pottery, which also owns the PEI Fox Den, which is in the North Bedeck Schoolhouse, the historic North Bedeck Schoolhouse in North Bedeck. So a retail shop with had just over 50 local artisans. So I'm excited to be here sort of as an operator, but also as the chair and hopefully helping to facilitate your questions. So without further ado. I'll hold it.
Okay.
I'll hold it, because then I don't want to have to wipe it off every time.
I'm Brendan Arsenault from O'Leary. I'm here representing the O'Leary Recreational Riders. We're a newly ATV group that started a little over a year ago, and we're looking to expand our trail systems and invite more people to our trails in O'Leary, I guess.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Jason Greenan, also on the board of directors for the O'Leary Club, and also representing the O'Leary Legion.
Thank you. Thanks for being here.
Just a bachelor with the Eastern Kings ATV Club. Just here to see what this is all about.
Thanks for being here.
I'm Don Reed. I'm on the board with the Heart of PEI and represent the Stanley Bridge. I have the Reed Holdings. It's a property management company, and I was the initial founding president for the Tourism Industry Association of Prince Edward Island.
Nice. Thanks, Don.
I'm Dean Shaw. I'm a volunteer with the Confederation Trail, and I also volunteer in raising funds for the Toronto Sick Kids Hospital, raising funds to fight kids' cancer.
Wow, thank you.
Hi, I'm George Dalton. I'm here to represent the Summerside and Area Historical Society. And we certainly love history on historic trails. And I'm also here as a member of the Lest We Forget Veterans Committee here. So kind of wearing a couple of hats and glad to be here. I was at the first meeting, enjoyed it thoroughly. So I'm a repeat offender.
Nice, thanks, George.
I'm Katie Hickox. I'm an American author here working on research of early PEI history, and I live in Summerside.
Nice, thank you. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Corinne Pickering. I'm here as a volunteer of Heart PEI Committee, and I'm representing the town of Kensington as a counselor, and I am the owner of Ship to Shore Restaurant out in Darnley.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jen Wah. I am the project coordinator for the Heart of PEI. Just thanks for everybody for coming out.
Thanks, Jen.
Good morning. I'm Julie Corbett. I am the executive director with the Kensington Area Chamber of Commerce, and I sit on the Heart of PEI committee as well.
Thanks, Julie.
Good morning. I'm John Davison, just past president of the Kensington Area Chamber of Commerce. I sit on the board of the Heart of PEI, and I have the Haunted Mansion here in Kensington.
Thanks, John.
My name is Nick Andrews, president of Quatrax ATV Club here in Kensington, and just here to hear the news and see what we can do to help.
Thanks for being here.
Good morning. My name is Sandy Rundle. I'm on the board of directors of the Prince Edward Island ATV Federation. And the last 4 years, I've been chair of the advocacy committee and working with the government on moving regulations and things forward for ATV sport on Prince Edward Island.
Thank you. Thanks for being here, Sandy.
Hi, I'm Kelly Dowling. I do communications for the PEI ATV Federation. Just looking forward to hearing from all the guest speakers today.
Thanks. Thanks for being here.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Gallant. I am the president of the PEI ATV Federation, and looking forward to working with you all and hearing from you all today.
Thanks, Jennifer. Okay, I'm going to wait to introduce our last speaker right now because he's going to say a few words shortly, but
My name is Peter Mellish. I'm the executive director of the PEI ATV Federation.
Thanks, Peter. And Jacques, don't worry, we'll get to you and other gentlemen, our panelists. So what I'd like to do, thanks, and I did that for a reason. I wanted all of our panelists to get a sense of who's in the room today. We do know we have some people online that are also here with vested interest, whether they are someone who is interested in using and understanding the value of the trails, value of trails, and learning. Our objective, we hope today to walk away with some ideas perhaps on how we can move the needle a little bit in this area, and perhaps even if all goes well, we come out with a pilot project that we might be able to try here. So I know that's wishful thinking, but I really am, truly the optimist. So what I could do is just to give you a sense of the timing of things, I'm going to have Peter talk a little bit about the Federation, and then what we'll do is we'll move into our panel discussion, and I certainly want to be open to have questions. So if I see your hand up, I'll make a note that you're going to ask a question, but also remember that that microphone there is the one to use when asking a question, so our people at home can hear as well. I think what we'll do is we'll introduce our panel when the panel happens. So if that's okay, gentlemen. Perfect. Thank you. Let me do this. And I'll just put that right on there. Well, it's up to you. Yeah, you can stay right here. I don't know.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Heart of PEI. Thanks for taking the time to be part of this first ever The Value of Tourism Trails workshop. As you know, my name's Peter Mellish. I'm a passionate ATV rider, I'm a trail builder, and I'm the executive director of the PEI ATV Federation. I want to first explain a little bit my background. I'm a proud Islander, an entrepreneur, and a contributor to the development of tourism trails. In 2010, I was introduced to the sport of ATVing. My best friend and our sons went on to his hunting camp in Nova Scotia for a father-son weekend. We were hooked. Shortly thereafter, purchased our bikes, and we began to explore. We soon found out that there was only 2 ATV clubs on PEI, and they were traditionally winter trails only, and there was no public ATV trails on PEI to access. So we headed across the bridge to explore our neighbors' trails in Nova Scotia and New Brunswick. But every time I paid the tolls, I kept asking myself, what's wrong with this picture? I ended up knowing the trails on the mainland better than here. There must be a way I can make a difference. So in 2015, I put my hand up at a public meeting in Musquesh. I had just agreed to be the vice president of the PEI ATV Federation. Have you ever wondered why you did something without really thinking about the consequences? How hard can this be? 7 new clubs since 2015. We've never looked back. Since then, I've filled different positions in the clubs and the Federation, and now I'm known as the full-time PEI ATV guy. Lots of people ask, what is a federation and what do they do? The PEI ATV Federation is an umbrella organization linking the 9 individual clubs on the island. Our mission is to be the voice for all things related to ATVing activities in the province and take a leadership role in collaborating with other trail groups. Our vision is to design, build, and maintain a legal, safe, insured, financially, and environmentally sustainable trail system across PEI. ATVing has become a huge family activity. It is great exercise, it relieves stress, it's better than therapy, it's safer than most people actually think, it's a way to explore the outdoors, it's fun, and it's a great social activity. I just want to be clear, we were social distancing long before COVID came along. We've experienced significant growth since 2015. In 2021, there was 54,837 ATVs sold in Canada. There is over 12,000 ATVs registered in PEI. Last year, there was 800 new ATVs registered. That was a 33% increase over the year before. In 2016, the Federation sold 300 trail passes. Last year, we sold 2,780 trail passes. That's an 85% growth since 2019. Motorized trails outperform all other trail groups combined in economic activity in 2021. Our sport contributes in excess of $25 million into the PEI economy in 2021 and has so every year since 2016. Not to mention the thousands of volunteer hours, the spin-off activity around food, fuel, and accommodations. While the sport has been associated with some periodic controversies, as you can see, it's clearly here to stay. Our current trail system consists of 400 kilometers of trails on private land, a mix of wooden trails and farmland, crown lands, and pilot dirt roads. Over 500 private landowners have signed landowner agreements with the Federation to allow the development of these trails. Our 9-member ATV clubs are the backbone of the Federation. They are responsible for trail planning, construction, maintenance, management with sound environmental practices, trail stewardship, landowner relations, emergency assistance, rider education and outreach, and community engagement. This is accomplished through volunteering, money raised through fundraising, and annual trail pass sales. The Federation has developed a robust governance model, a strategic plan for the future, and a code of conduct and rider etiquette. We are the only trail group on PEI that have developed an environmental code of practice. We've been partnering with the provincial government to help us expand our pilot roads, access to crown lands, Confederation Trail, and highway crossings. These projects are moving in the right direction, and we greatly appreciate the engagement received to date, but more work is needed as there is an opportunity here. We believe there's a real potential to capitalize on the sport's current popularity and further develop a year-round tourism product. The Federation has a strategy to nurture the positive aspects of ATV riding while reducing or eliminating the negative effects on the environment and other users. This strategy includes stakeholder engagement, rider training, collaboration with partners, education awareness, and fostering shared tourism trails for all. So today, I want you to think about how we can embrace this opportunity and visualize the renewed value in tourism trails. Thanks again for being part of this workshop.
Thanks, Peter. Well, what I'd love to do is try and get Jacques, Mike, and Alain. Now, I don't know if we can get them on our screen or how we'll do that, but maybe we'll, I guess if in fact they start talking, we can probably pop it up on the screen. But what I'd like to do is get each of you, if you don't mind, to just say a little bit about yourself and the groups that you represent. So maybe we'll start with you, Jacques.
Okay, let's go. You hear me well?
Sure do.
Perfect. So I want to apologize to people attending if my English is not perfect, but I think we'll be able to understand me clearly. My name is Jacques Paulette. I'm the development coordinator for Quad NB. I was hired in 2015 to bring some tools to the Federation to get to higher levels from where we were with my knowledge. I have been in the communication for 25 years, TV, radio, reporter with BNI. So I had quite a knowledge of marketing or to bring our product to a higher level, which I feel is really, we are really succeeding in doing so. You'll see in the presentation with the new municipalities that have granted us access on their streets. And we're moving forward, an increase of 6,000 members last year and 8,000 new ATV owners in 2021. So we'll be discussing about it in my presentation. So I'm really happy to be here this morning. And it's an honor for me to be able to share with you people our knowledge and also to learn about your product in your area.
You got me there. Thanks, Jacques. Really appreciate it. Mike, are you able to chime in at this point? Just introduce yourself if you could.
Yeah, it's Michael Allen, just a member of the O'Leary ATV Club. More or less just checking in to see what this is all about, actually. So that's about it.
Thanks, Michael. I think I was looking for, I'm looking for Mike Marriott if possible. We may not be able to get intros from everyone who's online because there's quite a few online, but I'm glad you're here. So can we get Mike Marriott? Are you there? And if not, we will go. He's there. Maybe you're muted, Mike. See if you can unmute yourself. I was just saying we were talking online the other day, and I said that's probably the most popular phrase of 2021. Take yourself off mute or something like that. There we go. Hi, Mike.
Hi, how are you?
Good to see you. So maybe just tell us a little bit about you and your organization, if you could.
Well, our organization is Safety Minded ATV Association here to St. Margaret's Bay, just outside Halifax. It's been around since '97, and it was one of the 5 founding members of our provincial association, the All-Terrain Vehicle Association in Nova Scotia. And I was involved since '97, did a few positions since then, became president in 2001, and there's where I remained to as of today. So we're in a 32-kilometer multi-use trail in here to St. Margaret's Bay. And over those years, we've had to deal with Halifax Regional Municipality, provincial trails, county. The trail runs from Halifax all the way basically to Yarmouth with a couple gaps in between. So it's a completely multi-use trail, and we've had to learn to work and be involved from the start to look at issues and to promote the trail as it is. We are also one of the founding members of the 42 or 43 clubs of the All-Terrain Vehicle Association, which is about 7,000 strong now. And I think we have about 38,000 registered ATVs in Nova Scotia at this time. So that's where I come from, and I've been dealing with issues since then, and we have solved a lot of them. And of course, you have to have a good club members behind you to carry on that stuff. So that's where I am in this.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate that. Alain, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Are you on mute?
Hope
Oh,
you
you're
can
not
hear
on
me.
mute. Yes, we can. Absolutely.
Perfect. Alain Pomainville, I'm the president of Central Ontario ATV Club, which is located in Simcoe County, so Wasaga Beach Bay area. Most of our trails here are in Simcoe County Forest, and they're linked with road links from the local municipalities that have granted us road links to connect to our trails. And we also have connections to neighboring clubs in Dufferin Gray and in Baxter Severn. So different districts. We're now connected, 3 districts together. Central Ontario ATV Club was founded in 1999. So it's been quite a few years. We were also a founding club member for the Ontario Federation of ATV Clubs. I've been involved with the club for just over 10 years now in multiple fashion as a director, vice president, and now I'm the president of the club. So yeah, looking forward to seeing what, and I was in PEI last summer. Peter Mellish took me out on a tour after we came out of the Crossing Newfoundland by ATV. So it was nice to see the actual trails in PEI. And I was actually, one of the things that stood out for me was the fact that you were allowed to ride along the farmers' fields and to connect trails and routes. I thought that was very amazing. We don't have that in Ontario, and I'm looking forward to maybe getting some of that as well. It makes it a lot easier to connect, and I thought that was pretty awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Alain. I may talk a little bit more than you want me to, Phil, just to let you know. Thanks very much. So what I'd like to do, Jacques has a great little presentation that he's going to show on the screen, and then what I'd like to do, we'll open some discussion after that. Jacques, have you got your presentation ready?
It's ready. I'm waiting for the share screen. You have to transfer me the screen control.
It's already good to go? It says it's good to go to share.
Yeah, okay. So do you see it?
Not yet, no.
Okay, right here. Share.
There we go. We're starting to, hang on.
Okay.
There we go. Yep.
So you should see
So
it now.
if you can do that full screen, that would be even better, if that's possible.
Whoops. It is on my end. Yeah, you got a good question there. How do I get there?
Yeah, try that. What the heck? That looks good.
Yeah, I think I have it. Okay.
There we go. Perfect. Great.
Yeah, excellent. So
yeah, that's great.
So what we do usually is when we are asked by the club, when the federation is asked by the club to meet with the councils, I prepare this little presentation that is personalized to each club. So this presentation here was made on behalf of the Alberta County Trailblazers to the town of Riverview. But you'll see along the way that I have some material that is more general to all the clubs, but this one is for Alberta County Trailblazers. So when I did their presentation, I like to bring up numbers because people sitting around the table or sitting on the council, ATV industry is all new for them. So it's my responsibility to explain them how we work and what we represent within the community and within the province. So this club had 1,120 members in 2020. So they're just explaining them, but the numbers that I like to bring up with the presentation is that it's the economic impact for each club. Okay, in this area, it's $17 million. How do I get there? It's really easy with using the surveys that were taken or presented a few years back by Smith and Gunther. We all come to an average of $7,500 of economic impact per ATV owner. It doesn't matter if they're member of a club or if they're not member of a club, they still use their machine and they still have expenses, okay? So in 2021, it was up to $7,100, but now with the inflation, I brought it up to $7,500 a year. So in their case, the original economic impact was $60 million, and I used the number that we had in 2021 of $358 million in economic impact. And based on the last numbers in 2021, which we had 58,000 quads registered by Service New Brunswick, that gives us an estimation of $435 million in 2021. And with the numbers that we are seeing this year, there will still be an increase for 2022. So, and those numbers don't include tourism activities and gross domestic product. And this percentage that you will see the next one, I don't know why, but when we showed it at the councillors, they pop their eyes and say, oh, 82% of our members are between 45 and 65 years of age, with an average revenue of $85,000. So those people are in their comfortable zone of their life, and the best leisure for them is the power sports. So it's, as we see, it's mostly ATVing. So the next the next one is the objective why we are there. It's to obtain access to points of services. It was proven, I'm not inventing anything, it was proven that any new connection of trail or in addition to points of services increases the membership and brings in new enthusiasts and tourists. We have to be specific with the word tourist, because in New Brunswick, we can't say yet that we are the perfect tourism product because of the missing links that we have throughout our trail network. So this is a weakness for us, but we still have to work to use the word for the municipalities that we are a product that develops the communities. So tourism-wise, I just explained them that in 2018 we hired a marketing consultant, and he suggested to get some theme trails, and we have developed 5 of them. It's the same thing as the Hatfield-McCoy system. We're not inventing anything. So what I did, I used their same pattern, their same approach to develop those theme trails. And the good thing about the theme trail is that when I get a call from tourists, I ask them the question. The first question I ask them is what's the level of difficulty that you want? If it's from a scale of 0 to 10. If they say, well, it should be 5. So it's easier for me to say, okay, you go check on our website and check for the Acadian, the coastal trail. So they go on the website and they have all the information about the coastal, the peninsular coast trail. So it saves me some time for having to explain them what's the content of every trail. So we have the profile of every theme trail on our website, which they can go visit. And to achieve our goals, we have brought together, as I said, those five trails. And right now we have produced 3 paper maps, and you'll be surprised, but the paper maps are still water. People still want them. So we have produced, I'm completing the 3rd production of the map, and it's in exchange, we said at the federation level to the clubs that were involved, we said, we'll produce the map, and the extra money that we will get from it will go back to the clubs. So the sponsors like it. And I think overall, there will be $10,000 that will be returned to the different clubs. And also to the councils, I'd like to explain them the increase. You see the growth of the membership growth of our industry. And if you look at 2021, there was a major increase, between 22%, I think. And if things go well this year, we expect it will remain stable, but it would be great if we would have just a small increase. There are a few reasons for that, as I explained to the councils. There are many reasons for that. Yes, we don't put the blame, but we put the responsibility on COVID. But we've done so many things lately to change we adopted a social brand, Quad and B, which is a lot easier to sell. We've had many new accesses on streets. We had many new trail developments that improves our product. So if you put all those little things together, we feel that this is why we had a so high increase of membership and quad owners in 2021, which was, in my mind, was the result of few things that we did prior to 2021. And also, I'd like to present them the map, the regional map, the region map, and also the maps of the streets that the clubs have access to. And I have to be clear here for this topic. Some clubs don't necessarily want to have the federation involved in their approach with the municipalities. But what we've seen so far, when it happens, we always have to get back to the drawing table, because the clubs don't know everything about getting bylaws. We are familiar with that. We work with the civil servants, and every time it happened, I must say, I had to go back and to redo rather the bylaws to communicate back with the councils, which is not likely because the chief of staff that take care of the bylaws don't like to have to go back and redo their work, okay? So this is why that we tell the club, tell us the streets you want and let us do the legwork. We'll do the approach with the municipalities. We'll do the presentations, and don't worry about it. It's part of my job. So in their case, this is the list of the streets that they have asked for. And in New Brunswick, any municipalities, any incorporated municipality has the right to grant access to ATVs based on the Off-Road Vehicle Act and in the topic, the article 37.1 and 37.2. So the steps, I explained them the steps that we have to follow. They like it because as soon as they say, okay, let's go, the council wants to support Quad and B's request to have access to our streets. This is where I come in. This is where I prepare the bylaws. We get the bylaws ready. So there's no hustle for the staff. It falls all under my responsibility. So lately I've had 5 municipalities in the last 3 weeks, new municipalities that have granted us access on their streets. So just to write a bylaw, it's about a day work because we have to write them in both languages. So I give them the list of the municipalities that have granted us access in the last years. Edmundston was the first municipality to legally give us access on some streets. Shippagan followed afterwards, and this is the list that you have. We have 18 municipalities that have granted us access, legal access on their streets. And the last one is for the municipalities that have given us, that have granted us or approved us to travel on their streets. Why this list is longer than the other? It's because in the last 6 months, I have 10 of them, 10 new municipalities that have granted us access. The ones that you see with the little star, that's those that are almost ready to be approved by the Minister of Public Safety. And the ones that you have with the cross, those are the municipalities that have called us, have approached us themselves saying, we would like to see the ATVs on all our streets. Okay, so you see, we're really moving forward. We're having success with what we're doing, the way we're doing it. And I feel that some municipalities say it's kind of the professionalism that you have shown us at Quad and B that kind of motivates us to accept your requests. So I explained them that the advantages to support quad development, first of all, new revenues for businesses, $50 per stop to restaurant, and between $20 to $30 of gas. So as you know right now, this really will pop up, probably 20% increase. So 80% of our machines hold from 1 to 5, I should even say to 6 passengers. This is where we are different from the snowmobile industry. I'm not trying to bring them down, but if you stop at, let's say, a restaurant and you see 20 snowmobiles parked there, the possibilities that there will be 20 people inside are greater than the ATV. 80% of the snowmobilers travel one on the machine. But for us, it's the opposite. 80% of our travelers or our enthusiasts are minimum 2 per machine because most of them are side by sides. And it goes up to 6 riders, 6 passengers. So when you'll see the photo, some next screenshot, you have 10 ATVs parked in the front of the restaurant. You will have 10 attendants inside. You will have about 18 or 20 of them, and even more, okay? So this is a topic that I like to get more into with the municipalities, and mostly when I do this presentation to the chambers of commerce for the business sectors, this is where I spend more time. So the average spending per organized rally is $110. I do remember there was in Caricat once, they were trying to bring in those ships. So they were saying that each and every stop of those ships were bringing $12,000 to the community. So I raised my hand and I asked the minister, I said, did you ever see some quad event numbers? And he said, no, I've never got any. Well, I said, in just one day, this is what you get from an event from an ATV club. Directly, $12,000 that is spent to the gas stations, to the restaurants, and everywhere. That doesn't include the tourists that are staying at the hotel. It's not including that. So the minister was quite surprised, and he said, we need those numbers. And we sent them the numbers, and we think that hopefully that it was a little portion of the success that we are doing today. So let's not be shy. We have to ship those numbers, to send those numbers to the people that take decisions. It's the same thing in Tracadie. It's been the fourth weekend that Chalet de la Plage, we just started to have access there a month ago, and it's the fourth weekend that Chalet de la Plage is full. Okay, thanks to the ATVers that are coming from the Îles de la Madeleine, they're coming from Quebec, they're coming from anywhere in the province. It doesn't matter. They're considered as tourists. So every new access creates an increase in membership and enthusiasts. The leisure development for your citizens increases economic impact without major investment from the businesses benefiting of this industry. We're not doing this for when we get access into streets or anything like that. The federation doesn't get richer, the club doesn't get richer, but the businesses do. We don't do that to create jobs for us, for the clubs of the federation. We do that to sustain jobs within the businesses that benefit of our industry. So the return on the investment for the province, we have to consider an increase in sales tax, revenues, and all that stuff. So the increase of 8,000 new ATVs last year is considerable for the province. Now we have to talk about concerns. We can't skip that one. It's not negative. It's just that I feel the need to bring it to their attention. The concerns that we hear or that we've heard in the past, it will disturb our tranquility, which an ATV doesn't make more noise than a snowblower or a lawnmower, okay? And it's passing through. So the decibels, I'm not sure if I'm using the right word, the decibels of the noise is a lot lower than any other machine. And in New Brunswick, it's still the same. There's a law prohibiting the use of modified mufflers. So arrival of new users on your streets, this is a fact that we have noticed in the past, that some people were nervous about seeing ATVs on their streets. So we asked them the question, are we more dangerous than just a little moped? So they have to answer no, because you have four wheels, you're covered and all this stuff. So safety-wise, we're a lot safer than any other vehicle or power sports vehicle. A property depreciation. So when I get that concern, I have to raise a little flag here, because I've checked with 3 new buyers. They had houses, they purchased houses, and I checked with the seller, and I asked them, I said, was that an obstacle for you to sell the house because the ATV trail is riding just beside the house? They all answered me, we sold because of it. We sold the house because there's an ATV trail. The new buyers are ATV enthusiasts, and this is why they purchased it, because the ATV trail is just nearby. The risks for other users, the more complaints that I hear is not from the other riders, it's from the ATVers. They say, well, we're a little nervous to ride on the street with the other vehicles, but it doesn't take long for them to get used to it. Just one ride, and they call me back and say, it was not that bad, Jacques. Yeah, we love it. Okay, let's keep it going. So the other thing is adopting new ways of sharing the roads. And some people are afraid of changes, and there's also a misconception of the product, which we will see in the next fix. This is where we started in 1983, $2,800. That was the first bike on the market. Now, in 2022, this machine is sold for $48,000, and you will see it's not fully equipped. Once it was equipped, it was $58,000, okay? And we think that we have reached the peak in our industry. It's not the case. They came up with this, fully covered ATV with heater. So what we see more and more, I took a ride a few weekends ago, and I encountered six seaters ATVs that were covered like this with the kids. And I stopped them and I said, what's the idea? Is this bringing you a new reason, a new motivation for ATVing? They said, of course it does. Now we can get out the whole family. We're safe. We feel secure. It's a safer sport, and we love it. So some people still have the misconception of this, but this is what the municipalities that say, no, we don't want you on our streets because this is what we see. Well, this is what they're missing. Okay, I like to show that picture. Okay, this was taken in Quebec. Those are all tourism from New Brunswick. Okay, so I keep telling the people, this is what we're losing. Okay, when we have an event, this is what happens. Many hundreds of ATVs gathered together, and if you look at the little shack there, I don't know of any club that has a clubhouse. So not having a clubhouse, this means that we don't operate restaurants. So if we need to go to a restaurant, we go to the restaurants within the municipalities or where it's accessible from an ATV trail. And I like this also that I see on Facebook. I was speaking a few minutes ago about the side-by-sides. Okay, if you look at all of them, 80% of the ATVs there are side-by-sides. So I see, just looking quickly, 2 of them, I don't see the others in the back, but 2 of them are 6-seaters, okay? Meaning that there were probably more than 2 in the restaurant for just that one. So when I complete my presentation, I like people to see this, the municipalities. Bathurst, perfect example. The first time I met with them, it was a quick no. They didn't want to see the ATVs on the streets. So after the presentation, one counselor stood up and said, do you realize he didn't use the word stupid, but he was close to that. He said, we've got to wake up on this. Mr. Wallet is showing something that we should benefit of, we could benefit of, and we just shut him off. So after the meeting, I got a call from the chief of police saying, Jacques, I just told them in the meeting, so you don't want us, we're fine with it, we'll just work somewhere else. I'll put my efforts somewhere else. So he called me after the meeting and said, Jacques, we do need to work together. Let's have a meeting tomorrow morning. And we are motivated. One counselor stood up and said, we need to work with this guy and to see what we can do. So since then, we were granted access to downtown, which was the first municipality to give legal access downtown. And now this week, they will be adopting, they will be going through the first and second readings of the new bylaw that will allow us to use downtown to cross the city to connect 2 trails that don't connect. Imagine the impact that this will have, because this region is disconnected. The north doesn't connect with the south of the northeast part of the province. So imagine when this will be done. Grand Falls did the same thing. Now we can go through the city. Shippagan, Caracat is going there also. So if you look at this, the combination, the coexistence with the ATVs and the cars and the other vehicles, there's no issue. We don't hear of any issues. So that's it for the presentation that I gave to the councils, which is usually a little shorter because I move quicker with less details. And after that, it's up to them to make the decision if they want to work with us to adopt the bylaw and to give access to ATVs on their streets. That's it.
Thanks, Jacques. That was fantastic. So what I'd like to do maybe is, there's a few images that I just want to maybe ask some questions to, and whether it's to you, Jacques, or whether it's, I know, Mike, that you had talked at one point about, I'm always very interested in know the positive effects that a new user group can have on an area. And seeing some of your pictures there, Jacques, with people outside of a restaurant or a cafe or any sort of an operation means to me there's opportunity. So Mike, you had a story that I just wanted to pull out of you, if you don't mind. You were talking about how things in your region affected a particular, I don't know if it was several operations, but maybe you could speak to that if you could.
Mike Mary, you're talking?
Yep, we've got you.
I think probably the bridge that we put in to access fuel and stuff, I think is what it was. In 07, 08, our members were trying to get to an urban station, but the place had built out so much in the previous 10 years. We were going across new malls, new businesses, down over banks. It wasn't safe. There's too much things. So we went to a business, which was an Esso and had takeout and stuff that was off the rail bid, and said, we can solve this problem if you could give us permission to build a trail and a bridge to your business. And you'll have the benefit of calling people in here to get fuel, takeout, country market. Not only that, if they get used to coming to your place off the rail bed, they'll probably come in their cars and trucks on a regular basis. So we did get a permission from him. We did the work ourselves. We gave him insurance for our provincial organization, third party, that made him more comfortable. Signed an agreement, and we put in a bridge and the trail into his back, whatever way he wanted it done, so that it was safe and keep people off his slopes that would get wore out. We did that. So after that went in, it was great. Our members basically was using it for all their fuel and other services. However, there were all kinds of other multi-users on the trail that said, wow, we can now get into the takeout, and we can get into the garage, and we can get into the washrooms or buy something. Could you fix it up better? Well, we did. So we fixed it better, put better planking on it. Now we had 3 schools directly on the other side of the Esso. And they said, we're doing field trips and stuff all the time, and we'd like to use that route now because it's much safer for our kids. And they said, is that fine? Well, yes, it's a multi-use trail. We have the LOA for it, and you can use it. We let everybody use it. But it does have some turns in it. We said, well, we'll fix it up. We'll put a surface on to our cost, and we'll put better railing, and you'll be able to use it. So they used it still using it today. The equestrians came to us and said, well, we go up there, but we can't get over to that side because we have to use the road. I said, well, we can let you use the bridge, but the decking really may not be the proper thing for the weight of a full-grown horse on one hoof. And we looked at it, had other people look at it. You know what? We'll redeck it so it will be safe. So the equestrians people, that's quite a few out there now, use that route. And here in the last year, we went to the St. Margaret's Bay Rails Trails because they were a partner all along in this, and said, we're going to redo that whole trail, resurface it, and redeck completely the whole bridge with very heavy decking so that it won't matter who uses it, it's going to be safe, and we're going to replace the decking. So that's what we did this year. And now it's become a community trail, not an ATV trail that we maintain for them. So that's
a great story.
It was a benefit to the businesses, the schools, residents, other trail users.
Thanks, Mike. Alain, I would like to, if you don't mind, I realize that every province is different, and I don't profess to understand all of the laws and the rules, but Alain, in Ontario, what sort of challenges have you come across when you've been building and developing in your area?
Well, the challenges are the same as what all the other provinces seems to be having. I mean, it's always a challenge because in Ontario, the province actually changed the ruling of the Off-Road Vehicles Act last year. So before, in order to get access for ATVs on the road, the municipalities had to pass a bylaw and say, yes, you can. The province last year reversed the provincial bylaw that says now that all roads are accessible unless you say no. So now the municipality, it's on their responsibility to say, no, you cannot use ATVs on this road. Now that made it easier for us to get access. However, most of our access in Simcoe County that we've worked on, we had to do it the old-fashioned way, just like Jacques did in his presentation. We have basically a very, very similar presentation that we do, and that's what it is. You have to show them the benefits of access, and that really has been our challenges to every single municipality. In Simcoe County, we have about 12 municipalities. Right now, we have 8 of them that are on board. So there's still a few left to do. Now, we don't, in the few that are left, of course, the city of Barrie, there's no trails in the city of Barrie. It's not a big concern. However, if you look at the city of Wasaga Beach, 4 years ago, they granted access from basically April 1st to December 1st. So that started from 7 in the morning to 11 at night. 2 years later, we approached them and said, because we're thinking about opening winter trails, how about we extend for a whole year? And we didn't even have to do a presentation at council. The council took it upon themselves and said, well, it's been 2 years. We've had absolutely no issues whatsoever. Let's open the roads 365 days a year, 24 hours a day. So therefore, the local ATV owner that has a blade in front of his ATV cleaning his driveway can now drive 2 blocks over and clean his friend's driveway as well. And it's all legal. People are respecting the rules. Things are great. This is the type of stories that I'd like to share with you, is because there's very, very little negative impact. Most of it is positive. If you give them a place to go and links to connect to the trails, ATVers ultimately do not want to drive on the street. That's the last thing we want to do. It wears out our tires faster, it wears the machine faster, and so on. So getting to the trails without having to trailer and so on is a huge benefit for ATVers. And it makes everything more sustainable. Once we've started connecting our trail systems, as I mentioned in the introduction, we have trails in Simcoe County forests. So we have a forest here and a forest there and a forest over there. So every forest has 10 to 30 kilometers of trail. Well, if you're going to go to a forest and there's only 10 kilometers of trail, well, you'd be hard pressed to spend more than a couple hours in there. And then you load up and go home, or you load up and go to the next forest, unload again. So people didn't really enjoy the trails as much, even though the trails are beautiful, but it's just too short to keep them there for a long period of time. When we managed to join the trail system with the road connections, our membership just skyrocketed. We're well over 2,000 members now at the Central Ontario ATV Club, and it's still growing leaps and bounds. Of course, COVID did help us in the last year, but we have grown from when I joined the club over 10 years ago, there was 160 members, and now we're over 2,000 members. So the sports is growing tremendously. Every time we link new forests, new trails, membership increases. People are saying, hey, it's worth it. Let's buy a permit. And the permit money is put back in the trails. So motorized use, because it's a pay per use, basically. And I believe it's the same in all the provinces. The money goes back into fixing the trails. Like, we're all volunteers. I've been at it for over 10 years with this club and this organ. I was also treasurer of the federation for 7 years. We don't get paid. We do it because we love the sport. We do it because we want everybody to be able to enjoy the sport and benefit from it. So the money that the people pay for their permits, a good chunk of that money goes back into trails and improves the trail for all users. Like Mike was saying, we build bridges the walkers and bikers and hikers can't afford to build a bridge. They don't have the volunteer base. They don't have the funds. So ATV clubs are a good partner in multi-use trails. Most of the trails in Simcoe County Forest are open to all non-motorized. So walker, hiker, biker, we see them on the trail, horseback, and so on. But we also have dirt bike clubs that have trails intertwined with ours in the county forest, which we also share the forest together. So between the dirt bike clubs and the ATV club, we share a lot of the cost of the major repairs on the trails because we both use it. And we're both user groups and we get along and everything goes well. So it's really beneficial for everybody. And like Jacques was saying, if you go on a Saturday, on a Sunday, we have a place called the Fry Guy, and we have a trail heading right to him. And you go by the Fry Guy, you'll see 10, 15 ATVs parked, at the end of the trail, and people walk over and get their fries and so on. We have access to a few restaurants, and you go there on the weekend, you always see ATVs parked in the parking lot. And they're going to eat lunch or, while on the trail. So everybody benefits from it. It increases tourism. People are coming, like our biggest draw is people from Toronto that have ATVs. They'd come up, we're about an hour away. They can unload we have a clubhouse. We're a little spoiled. We have a clubhouse, which is basically a school portable and a 40-foot sea container that we have to store our equipment and stuff. So we're really spoiled. And we have that in a park. Wasaga Beach donated basically room in their park for us to set up a clubhouse. And so we have huge parking available there. And people can park, unload, and they can go ride all day. And actually, they can ride probably for multiple days now with the new connections that we have to the other two regions in the area. So tourism is great. People coming from Toronto, they're going to buy lunch, they're going to buy fuel, they're going to buy, etc. Sometimes they even rent rooms, spend the weekend, and so on. So it's a great sport. Brings you outdoors. And just everybody benefits from it overall.
Thanks, Elaine. I have a question for you with respect to your challenges in the community, but also the successes in what the rules were or are or have changed with respect to in Wasaga versus in other communities, whether or not you've had challenges or if you've, and I'll talk to Jacques about this as well, but I know that he often will, once he's determined an effective wording for a bylaw, he shares it with another community because often it satisfies all parties. And I just wanted to speak just quickly about how operators and communities, towns and cities have adapted to where you are now.
Yeah, and Wasaga Beach was more or less the second community or township in our area to give us access of the roads. The first one was Springwater, which was strictly a link basically between two big trail system, which was great for us, but it limited us. Wasaga gave us full access. What we do is like Jacques does, we assist the town in writing bylaws. So we have basically a pre-written bylaw, which is normally accepted by most municipalities. They fine tune it. Sometimes they want to put time of day or certain restrictions, but the bylaw itself, which is an approved bylaw for their staff, and lawyers have gone through it and so on. So we do provide that to them, a template more or less for them to go on. But once one municipality gives you full access, the others are looking at it and say, hey, how come they can ride everywhere here, but I live in this municipality and I can't ride anywhere? So they start calling their councillors, the ATVers, and say, what's going on? Like, if I live in Wasaga, I can ride my ATV to work. And one of the example for that is we have an ATVer in Wasaga Beach that works at the local beer store. So in the summer, all summer, you drive by the beer stores and an ATV parked in the parking lot. The guy works there, drives to work with his ATV morning and goes back home at night. Mode of transportation, very economical. I mean, an ATV doesn't use as much fuel as a car does. Very low impact on the environment and so on. Great vehicle to go to work. But once the other municipalities realize that things are happening, it makes them think again. It's like, what are we missing? Why aren't we doing it? And that's how we ended up with surrounding municipalities giving us access. And some of them restricted areas. They said, oh, we don't want any ATVs near Creemore because, you know, that's bad. So we have Clearview Township, which is basically all open except the ward where Creemore is. And then we have Springwater, which is basically all open now as well. They basically duplicated Wasaga Beach. Last year, we finally got approval for Tiny Township, which connects one of our forest trail that was basically the lone trail in the system, which was not connected until last year. So now that is connected. Strictly one road in and one road out for that connection, but it's connected to the rest of the trail system. And we've had no issues in the first year. So now they're looking at possibly opening a few more roads, give access to the local people so they can ride to the forest. Because right now, if you're 2 blocks away from that forest and you're not on the designated route, you can't legally get there. So all little things that we have to keep working on. We work together with the councils, we work together with the townships, and that's what the clubs do. The support of the federation is great, but the clubs do a lot of the legwork locally and stuff. And especially in Ontario, that's the way we kind of do it. The federation supports us 100%, gives us all the tools we need in order for us to go and talk to the councillors, talk to the municipalities, talk to the businesses. I mean, if you go to council meeting to present, we want to open these roads. If you have a couple businesses at that meeting that says, yes, I want that to happen because it gives me more businesses. Right now, I'm really slow, because of there's no snowmobiling and there's hardly any business in these months, and ATVers come in and fill up the place. And yes, I want that. The councillors start looking at a whole different way when they see that there's money for the municipality, for their constituents, and give access to the constituents to the services that is right there in front of them if they were willing to give access. So there's definitely challenges. There's always will be. But overall, I think the benefit is really outweighs all the challenges, and it makes it really worthwhile once you have a connected trail system. It is just so awesome to be able to say to people, yeah, you can leave from here. You can go, like right now, you can leave from Wasaga Beach and you can ride all the way to Owen Sound. Now that's a full day of riding between roads and trails. And once you get to Owen Sound, you can spend the night. You can ride a whole day around Owen Sound. There's trails up there. And then you can come back the next day. So you can make a 3-day trip. So that's what we're trying to do by keeping the trails connected through the municipalities. But this is how you build up and you become a destination. Like Jacques mentioned, the Hatfield-McCoy trail system. And this is something now that we're connected that we can almost, I don't think we're there yet because we don't have the kilometers that they do, but we can certainly entice a lot of people from Toronto or different areas to come up in our area in Simcoe County and spend some money and spend time on our trails.
And I think the obvious thing is that probably the operators and stakeholders that are tourism related, visitor related, are delighted because they're of course getting some extra traction. Thanks very much, Alain. Jacques, I wanted to talk a little bit about the bylaws, and I really like the fact that it's those of us who can influence the town councillors or the powers that be in terms of convincing them that there's a need. And I wanted to talk, Jacques, a little bit about the bylaws with you, and and what your success has been and how you've approached it.
I totally approve Alain's speech regarding, you see, getting a bylaw approved. I share this with the clubs. It's like building a house. If you want your house to be solid, you as club, you have to build a good foundation. So before I bring in the house, it has to sit on solid ground. So before heading for the bylaw, I regularly follow the clubs on their Facebook page. For me, that's the key. I put myself in the seat of a municipal councillor, and he sees some nasty things being said on Facebook. Okay, so when I know that, and I get to the council, and the council says, "Well, this club has this, and this issue. We had to solve it. I had to solve it before I get to the council." So the key people here are the volunteers. Like Mike was saying a few minutes ago, I feel that in many areas for Quad and B, we were granted access before, because I keep saying a mind is like a parachute. It works better when it's open. Okay, so we feel that if we have an open mind with the other group users, the other trail users, we are being seen as heroes. We are being seen as people that cooperate with the others, that have an open mind, and it's the reason why a club was named the community organization of the year in 2018. Just because of that, they built the Atlantic Coast Bridge. That was a $500,000 project, and we brought in every other trail users. So once we get to the municipalities to get the bylaws approved or through, we need a good base, a good foundation. Okay, I feel that every time it was a no, I had to tell the mayor, okay, we respect that. It's a no now, but councillors or councils change. It's an election process. So if it's a no now with the actual council, don't worry, we'll be back with the next council. Okay, so I've seen this a few times since I've been with the Federation, that's kind of a key that we need to respect. Also, the main issue is that when we meet with some councils, they have no knowledge of what the ATV industry is. So it's our responsibility to teach them what we are and the good way and the positive way of what we represent. Okay, so I think this is really helpful. And also the other key is the city clerks, because they are the ones that I work with. So I prepare the terrain before going to council. He or she is the person that I have to convince first that we are a good move. Okay, so we did the same thing in Shediac. What I suggest to the clubs is have a meeting prior to the presentation to the council. So we bring to the table the chiefs of departments, the mayor, the deputy mayor, the CAO, the RCMP representative, the Oreos representative. Usually they designate a counselor that will work with us. We have the club representative, and I'm there, and also sometimes we have our trail coordinator representative. So we're sitting around the table about 15 to 20 people, and we just discuss before we bring this to the total council or before we bring this to the municipality, to the citizens themselves. So that was really successful. And the other thing also, prior to meeting with those people, is I asked the clubs to do some legwork in getting the support from the corporate sector of the municipality, chambers of commerce, downtown corporations, all those associations. We bring them aboard. I meet with them, do a presentation to them. It's different to what I did a few minutes ago. Once I leave there, I do remember once I was told that there was a snowmobile enthusiast who owns a large business in Shediac. They said you will never be able to convince him. So after the meeting, he stood up and he said in front of all the people, he said, I'm surprised. It's just too bad that the numbers, that this presentation is not done to all the municipalities in New Brunswick, because the material, the numbers, the results that you have there, Jacques, should be shared with everyone. But it was asked to us, can't you just meet with the Provincial Association of Chambers of Commerce? I was told not to do so because when you do a presentation to a large group, they only register 25% of the presentation. But if we do it one-on-one on each chamber of commerce of every municipality, the discussion is longer and the exchange with the people, with the business people is more personal. And I have the opportunity to do a one-on-one. When I say one-on-one, it's meet with the organization itself. It's better to explain something about Shediac to the people of Shediac instead of explaining what's happening in Shediac to a group of 150, 200 people. So this is something that I have discovered along the way.
Thanks, Alain. We do have questions coming online, but also I just wanted to remind people here that we do have a microphone there, so don't be afraid to just get up and we'll take questions as well. There was a question that came in, and excuse me if we don't get to all the questions online. I'm hoping that many questions will be answered throughout this process, but there was a fellow, Mike, asked about barriers to provincial road access. And I know that every province is probably different, but maybe what I'll get, Peter, if you have a moment, just maybe address that here on PEI.
On Prince Edward Island, the Highway Act will have to be changed, I believe, and the Off-Highway Act will have to be updated for that to happen. So right now, the province has no ability to allow ATVs on public roads. Right now, we have a pilot project, and that is done through the Off-Highway Vehicle Act, and they give us permits. I don't think the permitting process would work, or they're telling me it won't work for mainstream roads. But right now, we have 4 municipalities in PEI that have expressed interest in exploring how to link the trail systems to their services and accommodations. So I think to answer the question, we'll know in a few months, but we are starting the process of determining how to proceed with that. We've reached out to the municipality or the Federation of Municipalities to see if they have to be involved. But I think the communities, it has to be a community-based approach where the community councils reach out to the provincial government, transportation department, and request that the discussion starts on how to allow ATVs with regulations to access communities, if that answers the question.
Great, thank you. I wanted to, Mike, you had mentioned something to me the other day, and I wanted to bring it up because we were talking about access to operations, and some of the pictures in the slideshow that you had, Jacques, had a group of people outside of a restaurant or a cafe, and I do remember, Mike, you talking a little bit about warning a restaurant in advance. You want to tell that story that you were coming? That's for you, Mike.
Yes.
There you go.
When we go on group rides now and we work with businesses along the rail bed, which are the easy pickings for getting access to, the other ones have to fall in line, like Alain and Jacques said, you have to work on them ones with road crossings. But if we go on a group road, again, it's not single person ATVs anymore. It's 2 to 4 typically. So we could have a group ride of 20, and that could be 35 people that are going to stop for a meal or takeout or whatever it may be, or a restaurant. And we make it a habit, or I have, and other members, that we're going on a ride. And this Saturday, we're going to stop at Wing It in Tantallon. Call them and say, when's your downtime on that day? When are you not that busy? And we will plan our route and our timeline for our run, that maybe we'll stop for lunch at 2 or 1 or 3, so that your regular customers, which are around dinner time and supper, will fill the gap for when you're not busy. So, and by the way, we'll call you the morning of when we have a number and say, yes, there'll be 25 of us coming. Fine, we'll get there for 2:30 and arrange it in advance, and they appreciate it. So that's what we can do for the businesses.
That's amazing. That certainly resonated with me. I thought of being, owning a restaurant and having either a group show up when you're already full. First of all, that's the first problem, and then the other problem is if in fact your group shows up first and the regulars are coming in for lunch and they can't get in. So both ways, I mean, you've solved a problem times two. So that's pretty awesome. I also like the fact that you are, as a group, if you're traveling, you're planning your route and you're also selecting local operations and supporting local as well. So does anybody have any questions from the floor at all while we're asking them? One thing I wanted to comment about, and this is probably different from province to province, but do you have operations, and maybe Mike, I'll start with you about this. Do you have operations that have, aside from the gas station that you spoke about, but adapted their operations to suit your market, if you will? Aside from scheduling, and are there specific things that other operations might have done?
We have had some local businesses didn't have parking areas, and they offered up either their land or adjacent land and said, we'll make a parking spot for your certain recreation with your machines. So we've had that where they've actually built infrastructure to allow us to be able to get to their businesses. And of course, the parking area, as the machines have got bigger, has to be part of that. So you're not impeding the traffic of everybody else on the trail. So that's some of the operations, I guess, that the businesses come to us that we try to solve. Along with, we've gotten letters from businesses off or across major highways, which is still an issue for trying to get access to. But one of the things, we've gone to them and had letters of endorsement from the mall owners or the businesses themselves saying we're perfectly fine with them entering our parking lots across from that highway and parking here to access all their businesses. And we presented them to the police or government or municipal MLAs, whatever, to show that there is support from the businesses for use of our coming to solicit business for them.
Alain, I'd like to ask you the same sort of a question. Are there operations that have either, first of all, didn't know that the market existed that you were bringing to them, and have either adapted or welcomed visitors?
Definitely. One of the examples that I use in the past is the Fry Guy. The Fry Guy is right basically on the trail. The trail basically dead ends right in front of this place. So we park in along the trail, and then we have to walk over across Horseshoe Valley Road to get to him. Now his staffing is based on our ride schedule. So if we have a ride on a Saturday or a Sunday, he brings in extra staff because he knows there's going to be 20, 30, 40 people showing up and buying fries and burgers and hot dogs or whatever they choose to do. So, and he also took it a step further, and he's advertised on our map. So we have an app called the Quad ON, which is similar to Quad NB, Quad ON, we call it Quad On. And this app basically shows you all the trails. And we have restaurants, businesses that advertise on there. So you can show them right on the trail. You can eat here. There's washrooms, there's food, there's gas there. So we have businesses, restaurants that have specifically approached us, say, hey, we'd like to advertise on your app because we're not far from the trail and we want this business, and we welcome that. And then we just make sure that it's appropriate and approved for us to be there and so on. But we have multiple restaurants that have advertised on the app, and have benefited from the ATVers. And when you open the app, you can look and see all the businesses and the services that are available, parking areas, restaurant, fuel, etc. It's all shows right on the app. And we have a free version of the app, and we have a paid version, which is $5 a year. So if the ATVers wants the app to follow them on the trail, just like a GPS would, they have to get the pro version, but the basic version is free, and it's available online for people to look at too. So you can plan a trail, and those businesses see that and they see value into it and have come on board and advertise on the app. And the app basically gives revenue to the club as well. So the advertising on the app is $150 a year. Half of that is returned to the local club as a revenue. So you sell 10 apps, you end up with $750 in money going back to the local club to do trail maintenance, repair, etc. So very important. Those businesses are extremely important to the ATVers and to the business of clubs and ATVing.
Thanks, Alain. Jacques, there's a few online questions that I want to get to, but same sort of question. Is there maybe one or two operators that stick out or stakeholders that stick out in your area that maybe have either benefited or adapted to a new demographic, if you will?
The perfect example of this is that makes me laugh, and I like to repeat. I think we shared it earlier this week when we had our first meeting. In Grand Falls, when they opened the streets, I think it was 2 years ago, the first complaint, and the only complaint that we received since, is that a Saturday morning, there was a lady who was used to go stop to this coffee shop on Broadway Boulevard. And as soon as we opened the streets in Grand Falls for the ATVs, she complained that one Saturday morning, she wanted to go take her coffee as usual, but she couldn't get into the building because there were 20 ATVs parked there doing the same thing as her. So we asked the question to the owner of the coffee shop. We asked her, should we stop announcing, advertising your business to protect that lady? So she looked at the club representative. She said, well, you're talking about one person, and you offered me to replace that person by 20. Okay. So what do you think I will give you as an answer? So she said, I'd rather have the 20 instead of keeping that one regular customer. Maybe she should change her habits. So the other perfect example for modification is that if you get a chance to come to Packetville, for us, it's the heart of New Brunswick, of our area. Yep.
Put the questions on the other side for me so I can read them. Can you throw the questions over here? Thanks, Jacques.
Okay.
Yeah, you just keep going. Sorry, I'm just yapping.
Okay. No problem. So the perfect example is if you get to Packetville in wintertime, there's the new Tim Hortons, and I was told over the weekend that there was the old Tim Hortons, and when the owner decided to rebuild the Tim Hortons, he decided to rebuild it wider, larger, to accommodate more enthusiasts. So that's the perfect example of some of those areas. And if you get there, I was there last Saturday, and at nighttime, 8 o'clock in the evening, we could barely get inside the Tim Hortons. It was full of ATVers, okay, full. We had to remain standing for about 10 minutes before we could get a table. And once we were finally able to sit down, 20 other people were waiting outside to get inside the Tim Hortons. So this gives you a perfect example. And that Tim Horton, the staff that night, it's the same thing every weekend. They have to hire new staff or to put in new staff to be able to answer to the demand of those ATVers. So this is just for one example. And Jacques Poirier is online, and he can confirm to me also. In wintertime, in the Acadian Peninsula, there are about 5-6 clubs that Friday nights, Saturday nights, and Sunday nights, they're full. And not only the nighttime, daytime, they're full. It's a continuous traveling. You get to one stop, and then you get on your bike, you get to the other stop about an hour later, and it's the same thing. The shelters are full. They're teepees. As somebody mentioned a few minutes ago, the COVID-19 distanciation, we were already there before. So this is, as I say, this is an experience. Every time we go out on a different trail, it's a different experience every time. So this is why we chose our motto, a new experience in every outing.
Thanks, Jacques. There's some questions that I just wanted to get to online, and one specifically asks about the question of what are riders wanting? What are they looking for? And maybe I'll ask Peter. Do you want to respond to that? Because obviously we're newer to the game, I think, than some of you, but I think that ultimately we can learn from everybody's successes and mistakes. So, but I guess the question is, what are they looking for more? Are they looking for accommodations? Are they looking for food? Are they looking for washrooms? Are they looking for gas stations? That sort of thing.
All the above.
All of the above.
And more. We're no different than any other traveling tourist, but one of the things with an ATV, they want experiences. They want to get out of the urban areas and get into the rural areas and experience the things that are relevant to those areas, whether it's a waterfall, a beach, a lookout, a lighthouse, a fry truck. An experience is what most of the people are looking for, and accommodations and services, being fuel, lodging, meals. But most of all, people are looking for an experience. And the funny part is, when you drive an ATV in a loop, you go one way, it's one experience, but when you reverse it, it's a totally different experience because you're seeing it from another point of view. So ATV is looking for destinations. It has to be, nobody likes to drive down a one-way street and get to the end of the street and turn around and drive back out again. People want to go from one destination to another with experiences in between it. So if that answers the question, but it's no different than any other traveling tourist, but it's harder because the roads don't link you to those services and experiences like they do for a motor vehicle.
As operators, if we wanted to get on a map, first of all, I know everyone deals with maps and/or apps differently, but I think that the first question for a rider is, okay, so where can I go? What routes can I go to? What's open at this time of year? So I guess there's a number of questions, whether or not, first of all, and I'll ask you, Peter, first about this map question. Is there an opportunity, if one isn't already there, to create a map of existing and then growing routes and/or operations? That could be.
So that is the number one question: is how do I find a map? And it's like, it's a treasure map. It doesn't exist. So we've been trying to develop a map, but up to today, we haven't had all the government properties signed off, so we haven't been able to complete that link legally. And as of this week, we've signed off the crossings for the Confederation Trail, which is the biggest part of the missing link. So we are in the midst of developing an app that will be available to our riders, that will feature all of the legal trails on PEI and give the opportunity to create services and goods and accommodations and all the features along the trail system. The biggest part is trying to develop ATV-friendly businesses that would welcome ATVers to stay there. So maybe they have a little bigger parking lot in their yard, or they have somewhere they can park their vehicles. They don't have to be on the trail system. Ultimately, that's the goal, is to develop the services on the trail. But the first step is to make ATV-friendly communities and, identify the businesses that want to cater to ATVs, to the customers. So that would be the first step. And we plan on launching the mapping system this year. And we have a test model right now that we're testing, and it's very similar to Quad NB and OFATV's map in Ontario. So, yeah.
Thanks, Peter. We have a question from Donna, who's the president of the PEI Equestrian Club. Thanks, Donna, for this comment. And you're asking about, I'd like to inquire how New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, Ontario deal with ATV equestrian interaction. And I know that, Mike, you already comment about how some trails, you would actually enhance some trails so that horses could access certain operations, which is fantastic. But Jacques, maybe since we've got you on the screen right now, maybe we'll let you take that one first.
Maybe Jacques Poirier, our GM, would have a better answer to that. But if I look at many areas in the province, we just ask people who want to use our trails as equestrians just to inform us of the area that they like to travel on, and then we can put up signs just to inform our travelers. But we have to keep in mind that ATVers don't travel fast, and they travel on short distances compared to other power sports. So within a day, we will probably be traveling about 150, 180 kilometers. That I would say this is the average. So since we are traveling slower, this is why that any other non-motorized users like to use our trails. It's just a question of being able to share the access and coexist on the same trail. Once we are aware of it, we can also suggest to some equestrians specifically where they can ride and where we feel it's safer for them. We will not send them into a snaky trail area as we have in many places. So we will, but we can't control that necessarily. We have fat bikers on the trail that we built that was 3 years ago. And it's intentionally snaky because we want to increase the experience and the level of difficulty of our users. So, but the bikers, the fat bikers don't mind using that trail. But our users, our own users, our members are aware that we might not be alone on this trail. So we reduce the speed limit, even if it's not respected. At least they have an idea that they have to share the trail. And by announcing ourselves that we want to share trails, this also puts us in a good position with the municipalities. If we say that, okay, we will be using your streets to connect our trails, but our trail, once it will be connected, we grant access to any other users. So this brings a new leisure or a new access to that leisure within the municipalities, which is really welcome. So in my point of view, the signage is the key to having or seeing horses on our trails.
Alain, I might ask you the same question, whether or not you've had some successes in how equestrian groups and ATV groups might have communicated and how they've been able to share, if there's some sharing happening.
Yes, Simcoe County Forest has a users group meeting every year, which is basically a conference call that, well, it used to be face-to-face, but the last couple of years been conference calls, and all the user groups participate. So you have the walkers, the hikers, the bikers, the horseback people as well, and so on. And we all participate in the users group meeting once a year, and we voice opinions and requests and things that we have any concerns and so on. Most of our trails are in county forests, so they are accessible to everything. So we promote to our users, it is a multi-use trail. So what do you do if you encounter a horse on the trail? What do you do if you encounter a walker on the trail? People walking their dogs, people biking, etc. So we inform our users about the multi-use aspect. And we've asked the equestrian group, what do you want us to do? Because I was always told you got to shut off your ATV, you got to take your helmet off, you got to do this, you got to do that. So a couple of years ago, I've talked to the equestrian group and says, what would you like us to do? And that representatives told me, he says, you don't need to shut your ATV off. You don't need to take your helmet off. You don't need to do that. You just need to talk to us. The horse knows you're there. acknowledges you, and then it's not a problem. It's if you sneak up on them, then it's an issue. So I said, well, that's good. We need to know. And that's why we have these user group meeting. And that's why we share with the other user group, because there's certain things that people say, oh, you need to do this, you need to do this. Well, not necessarily. So the users group, the horseback people told us this is what, because on the farm, there's ATVs and tractors going around all the time. So they're not scared of them. But of course, if you sneak up on anything, you get scared. One of the big issues that we have encountered on the trails is people with earbuds. They have earbuds in their ears. They don't hear anything around them, whether they're walking their dogs or on the horseback or anything. If they listen to loud music in their ears, you have to be aware that some people on the trail may not hear you coming. ATVs are not loud like two-stroke snowmobiles or dirt bikes. They're pretty quiet. So if you're putting around on the trail, you can sneak up on somebody. So you've got to make sure that you acknowledge them and they acknowledge you before you get too close to them. So just mutual respect of the trail users. And as multi-use trails, that's what we try to promote, is mutual respects.
Thanks, Alain. In the essence of time, there's a few other questions I wanted to quickly run through if possible. But I wanted, Jennifer had a comment about that Stanley Bridge area has a number of opportunities in the winter months because there's a number of operations that are open. So I just wanted to mention that. That's for your benefit, Peter. And also, there was a question about collaborating with environmental groups. And maybe I'll throw this to you first, Alain, whether or not you initially had to have some discussions, and if so, how that went and how you typically dealt with that.
Because our trail are all on private property, Simcoe County Forest, which actually is it's their 100th anniversary this year, and they won the best managed forest in Canada for this year, the award. So they were awarded that. So they have strict regulation on environmental impacts and so on. So we work closely with them. We have all along. It's their properties that we're on. So we are concerned if we see turtles or something like that in an area, we will reroute the trail. Last year, we rerouted the trail because we found a bunch of stick nests up in the trees, and we didn't want to disturb the hawks or eagles or whatever birds was using those stick nests in the trees in that area. They didn't want us too close to them, so we rerouted the trail a little further away. And one of the benefits for us, we gained about 0.5 kilometers of trail by going around that area. So it was not a total loss for us. Instead of cutting out trails, we ended up with a little longer trail. But we've always been concerned about invasive species. Yes, we promote wash your ATVs before you go, because you don't want to bring invasive species from forest to the other. If you go right in PEI and you come back to Ontario, you don't want to bring too much of that red dirt with you, because it might contaminate the Ontario dirt here. But invasive species is always an issue. And then there's also endangered species of trees and stuff. There's some trees that are specifically identified in Ontario that you cannot cut. And if we're going to have a trail and it's close to one of those trees, we will reroute away. Simcoe County Forest is a managed forest. They cut trees for a living. That's what they do, and that's what's funding the Simcoe County Forest. A lot of people don't understand Simcoe County Forest is not Crown land. It's a private entity owned by the Simcoe County. It's totally funded and by the sale of trees. So they buy their properties and fund the whole system, employed over 30 people with basically managing the forest properly. So they don't want invasive species. They don't want problems with the environmental issues. So we are working closely with them all the time on that.
Thanks, Alain. Jacques, did you want to comment on that as well, and maybe how you've dealt with it in different regions in New Brunswick?
I think we all have the same issue. We're dealing with freehold, private landowners, Crown land, DTI property, and it's my feeling is similar from one province to another because the issues are all the same. Private landowners want to protect their land. We mostly deal here with JDI, with Irving. So they already have their plan. When we develop new trails, we have to work on site development plans with the Crown Land people, which is becoming more and more complicated. We have to deal now with probably not with turtles, but we have to deal with this new vegetation that has popped up in the last years, growing around the wetlands. And if you want to build a trail, you only see one of those flowers that shows that this is a possible wetland area. And there's also the PNA candidates, which is protected natural areas. So when we decide to open a trail in some areas, doesn't matter, as I say, if it's private land or anything else. We at the federation level have our own environmental rules, but because we have to work under the umbrella of environment, and which has to be in respect with all that is required from the PNAs, DTI, Crown Lands, as I say. So I think it's quite similar to any other province.
Thanks. Peter, did you want to comment on that at all?
Can I jump in there?
Yes.
Oh,
sure.
There's Jacques.
Hey, I've been listening, and I've been letting Jacques Ouellet speak on behalf of Quad NB, because at the same time, I'm sort of doing his employee evaluation as to if he's saying the right things.
This is Jacques.
Why don't we get you to introduce yourself so that we all know who you are?
My name is Jacques Poirier. I'm general manager of Quad NB. I've been with Quad NB since 2004. So started at that time with the ATV Federation. I as well was working with government previously with the Department of Natural Resources, Stolen Trails at the time, which was basically developing the non-motorized trails way back when. That would have been in the early 1997s. And I've been with trails since then. Yes, I did work prior to that with silviculture with DNR, but technically speaking, my work history has been with trails since then. The thing that we were talking about natural areas and what have you, from the New Brunswick side of things, we do have a provincial committee that represents we call the protected natural areas. I am a member on that particular committee. So whenever we have areas where we want to gain access to these, what we call PNAs, we do submit a application to DNR for review, and then eventually that particular application will be brought up to the provincial committee of the PNA, and we have a discussion. We look at it. Is it feasible? Is it meeting the criteria that's been set forth for gaining access within PNAs? And if it does, then essentially it's just basically a rubber stamp of approval. But there's always some issues. We've encountered some issues in the past. Not more or less, it's with motorized than anything else. When it's non-motorized, it's a lot easier to push forward. But I mean, when it becomes motorized, whether it be for us, ATVs, or for snowmobiles, and even in some instances could be in the near future with dirt bikes, it becomes a big issue, because around the table, you're looking at least 12 people sitting around the table representing different organization. It could be Land and Mine. It could be the Protected Wildlife Area. It could also as well be somebody from Crown Land. It could be somebody from a forestry company. We have to make sure that we basically sell why we want to have a access going through a PNA. The biggest thing that we are seeing currently right now is that most of the applications that came in is already using an existing road It's been used for many years. We just want to make it legal. And in some cases, when you have what we call the tree huggers, they're the ones that are basically saying no. And basically, we have to try and convince them. At the very least, in some cases, I actually had to go directly to the minister to try and convince him that we have to make this go forward, move forward. We need this application. We need this link, and all basically laying down all of the reasons of why. The other thing too, I just want to add, based on what Peter was saying before about a NAP or mapping and what have you, I believe most will have to realize in the near future that will you be able to get 100% legal access? My answer is no. You'll never get 100%. You may get close to 100%, but you'll never get 100%. And the only reason why I'm saying this is that because a few years back, I asked a question to one of the provinces that have the best trail system network in the world currently right now, which is Quebec. And I asked them point blank, the president at the time and the general manager, and they basically said, no, even in our current day, which was about 3 years ago, they said, we don't even have all of our access legal. There's some sections of access of trails that are not potentially by law. We don't have a formal agreement with the landowner in question. The only thing I would say is that you have to make sure if you do put it on an app or on a map, that you're not putting the end user in a situation where they could be fined or stopped for one particular reason. Based on my experience here in New Brunswick, what we're looking at is we may have to go that route in certain circumstances, but we are looking at, if we do that, is it going to create an issue with the end users? So that's something just to make you aware that if you're trying to get 100%, if you do, well, all the power is for you. But I mean, if you try to get 100%, you may never achieve 100%.
Thanks, Jacques. Thanks for chiming in, because we did want to actually get to hear from you, so I appreciate that. In the essence of time, we're going to probably, I just want to thank Peter, Jacques, Mike, and Alain, or I'll say both Jacques, for joining us. And I'm hoping that some of you will stick around for our panel at 11. But if you can't, we'll try and find ways to have people ask questions from a distance. Are there any questions from the floor before we go for a quick coffee break? I think, Peter, you wanted to say something? Go ahead.
I just want to respond quickly to the question on the environmental engagement. On PEI, we have an environmental code of practice that we developed last year. We hired a consultant, Granville Ridge Consulting, and this Donald Maynard is the gentleman that helped us put it together, and it's a very in-depth environmental code on how to build, maintain, manage, and even decommission trails. So that initiative we've taken very serious in PEI, and it's a living document, so it keeps growing as we grow and learn as we grow. We try to work with the watersheds. Some of the clubs have worked stronger with some watersheds in the area and others. We are a firm believer in alliances and stakeholders working together, and we've worked together with the Watershed Alliance. We've had numerous meetings with them in the past. But yes, the watershed groups, we especially in this Kensington area, they worked closely, and I believe in Tignish, they worked with the watershed group there. We're starting to work with the forestry department. There's a fair amount of forestry property in PEI that already have trails that have been there for many years. We're working with them to ensure that they're all environmentally sound. And yeah, so we have a consultant that helps us with the environmental stuff, and I've learned so much in the last year. I know what a sensitive fern looks like, and I never knew what it looked like before. So we take the environment very seriously, and we're learning as we go with this.
Thanks, Peter. we did have some other questions, but I think they relate to our panel this afternoon too. So I might pass them on to that and ask them to our panel this aft. But without wasting too much time, I just wanted to here in the group thank all of our panel, and let's give them a big round of applause. I really appreciate it for taking the time on your Saturday morning. And yes, I think many of us are volunteers, and so we respect that everyone's doing this out of a vested interest that hopefully is a collaborative one. So maybe we'll take 5 minutes for coffee here, and certainly online you can stay and hang out. And I don't think we have any fancy music to play for you, but you'll probably see what we're doing in the room at the time. So thanks, everyone. We'll see you in about 5 minutes.
And Jacques Poirier, did I pass the test?
Yes, you passed the test.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Jacques, are you going to be sticking around later? Okay, great. We may still get questions. So if you're there, you're there. If you're not, we know you're out walking the dog. Okay, folks, I think we're going to get started again. I'm just going to introduce our next panel, some of which are live in person, some of which are online. But I will have, if it's okay, I'll have you just sort of say a few words and describe your operation or organization, because that will help us to get some context of what we're going to talk about. We have online, we have Sheila Arsenault, and she's with Treetop Haven. For those of you that don't know, Treetop Haven is an incredible accommodation in, what's that area called now? North Tryon. Yeah, absolutely. Sheila, can you say hi to the group? Oh, we have to unmute you. Apparently we have total control.
Can you hear me now?
We sure can.
Hi, everybody. Thank you very much for having me.
I might get you to, can you describe your operation when it started, and then in the questions we'll start getting into what's happening now, but let's maybe talk about when you started.
Yep, sure. So Treetop Haven, I have 50 acres in Mount Tryon. We have 5 geodesic domes, 2 cabins, and a venue center. We started building in 2016, and that's when I met Peter and Jason Matart from the ATV club. So the original ATV trail used to go through the power lines on my property, and they approached me to get permission to continue to use that. But because it was close to the domes, the noise would have been heard from the guests in the dome. So they worked with me, and we figured out an alternative route. And I've been working with them since then, and they've been exceptional to work with, and just the work that they've done to the trail system. When I started in 2016, there was no trails back here. Now we can go to North Granville, to Kensington, to the bridge. It's amazing what you guys have accomplished and how you've accomplished it. We also have 2 cabins here. We used to do weddings in the venue, but when COVID hit, we kind of had to turn around, and that's when we built the cabins. So now, because of the amount of ATV trails that are in our area, literally from here you can get right onto the trail. So it's a pretty big selling feature to people for tourism for here. New Brunswickers are huge clients because they are big outdoors. Gaston, we do get more calls, but a lot of people, what I've heard from guests is a lot of people don't come to PEI with their quads because there's not really many accommodations that'll suit them. So what we want to do with our venue down here is actually turn it into being able to house, like cater to the ATV groups. We're figuring that we could sleep about 8 to 10 people. We've put in for funding for it. We just have to put showers. We have quite a bit of the work done. And then we have the large parking lot so that people could bring their trailers and just leave right from here. Peter has hosted meetings from here and it's been a huge success. With Treetop, it just sort of goes hand in hand. So to me, we would get a lot of tourists here off season. And then the people are very nice, respectful, and they spend money. They go pay for lunch, they pay for accommodations, and I don't think we're targeting that properly yet on PEI. So I definitely see the value of promoting our ATV trails. And when we started working with Peter and them, I always said, oh, I'd love to have an ATV. And now we have a side-by-side and an ATV and 2 dirt bikes. So
wow, that's impressive.
Yeah, we're on the trails quite a bit too, so.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, we'll get into other questions in a little bit. And thank you for being here. It's great. When Peter told me about some of the things that you're doing there, I thought it was really important that people make the connect between accommodations and other stakeholder operations that might benefit from this. So the other person we have online is Ramona Roberts. Ramona, you are, tell us a little bit about why you're here.
Hi there, can you hear me all right?
You sure can.
Fabulous. So along with my husband, Austin, we operate the Kincora Irving gas station, the Big Dog store in Kincora, and we just happen to be along the trail. So we're just kind of a natural stopping point for the ATVs. And I'm here just to kind of discuss what our experience has been with the ATV crowd and what they bring to us as a business.
Thank you very much. And here present, we have Richard O'Shea. Would you like to say a few words about your operation and maybe a connection and how you got to know Peter? Maybe that's a good way to start.
Yes, so we run O'Shea's Pub and Eatery in Kincora, and the ATVing has made a big difference in business on the weekends for us. We met Peter back when they were building the trails, I guess, from Borden through to Kincora. The boys used to stop in, have snacks all the time. And now that the trails are open from Kincora to Kensington, we've noticed a major increase on the weekends. It's at the point where if the trails are open, we know we need X amount of staff. If the trail's not open, we don't need as many staff that weekend. But it's helped us lots on the weekends. It's we're also at a point where Sunday appears to be a big day. Just seeing them all hanging around the Irving there on Sundays, it's something that we're looking at. Maybe we need to be open Sundays because of the traffic coming through town. So yeah, it's made a great difference. It's good for my employees, it's good for my business, and it's good all the way around.
It sounds like you've had to adapt a little bit in a positive way. That sounds really good.
That's right, yeah.
We also have the president of the PEI ATV Federation, Jennifer Christine Gallant. And Jennifer, maybe you wanted to say a few words about.
Sure. So we do have Sandy Rundle here. Sandy is our representative at the Canadian Quad Council, or the national body that oversees all of the federations across Canada. And PEI, little old PEI, we are being recognized there. We're being recognized across Canada, and the word is getting out. Peter and I are seeing, emails coming in of people from provinces way out west. We had one just recently, I think it was Saskatchewan, a group of riders that wanted to come to PEI for their summer vacation and ride here, and they were asking lots of questions about the trails, the accommodations, and all that kind of stuff. So, we're seeing that interest starting to be piqued across Canada of tourism becoming, ATVing becoming a tourism product here on PEI. We have those trails, we have the destinations, we have some services, we have the authentic PEI experiences that are available. the possibilities are endless of what could happen here to develop a very strong tourism product. Was it last year? I think it was last fall. I had a group from New Brunswick that reached out to me that always choose a destination within the Maritimes to go ATVing. And they're quite a large group. There was at minimum 16 couples, and it grew to 20 as I was making the arrangements for them. So they had, PEI was the last destination that they had to go on their ATV trip. So I had contacted a small organization in my neck of the woods called Le Centre Gualan Cape Egmont. It reminds me a little bit of a Treetop Haven, kind of a wooded area, rustic, fits the bill for ATVers who enjoy being in nature and that kind of stuff. They were gonna sell out the entire venue, hire a caterer. They were hiring a guide for each day. They were paying that guide $250 for each of the days that they were going to ride. We were gonna do the Evangeline trails and probably the Quad Tracks trails a second day. So, and they wanted to go to restaurants. They didn't want to bring food with them, but they wanted to have, some meals catered at the venue at night. So the economic impact for that venue, whose main source of income for the summer was weddings, and with COVID the last 2 summers, they've taken a hard hit. So they were extremely thrilled to be hosting these people. And actually I overfilled the venue and was going to haul 2 campers in addition to all of the rooms that we're able to provide. So it just goes to show this one group of friends that just wanted to come riding and the impact that they could have had in a small community that was hurting from COVID. So I've seen it firsthand experience and all of the questions that come into the inbox from riders that do want to come here. So I think we definitely have to come together and look at the opportunities that we're currently missing out on and go forward and grow those experiences.
Thanks very much. Again, reminder that people here, if they'd like to ask questions, and also online, feel free to ask questions. One question that jumped out at me, first of all, it occurred to me as a member of Meetings and Conventions PEI, I'm of course thinking about how we can connect the dots a little bit more and maybe introduce people to places. And I wondered whether or not, because one thing that Meetings and Conventions PEI does is they actually act, let's say there's an event coordinator that comes from New Brunswick and wants to bring 500 people here, or wants to bring 200 people here. Free of charge, they will help connect the dots for them. So I say that because I think there's an opportunity where we can collaborate a little bit more, and here Jennifer was doing all the hard work, but there may be an opportunity to help with perhaps some facilities or operations that she's not aware of. Who's open at this time of year, who might be able to facilitate that many room nights. There's a whole bunch of issues. Certainly accommodations can be challenging in certain areas, but if you know in advance where and how and why, there's some advantages. The one thing I wanted to bring up, and perhaps Ramona, you could address it, is maybe how you, whether or not there are certain things that you did to adapt your business to an onslaught of new visitors, maybe.
Sure, I'd be happy to discuss that. And the answer may surprise you. So we do get, the big groups, the rushes of people. And to be honest, there were only just minimal things we had to do. So because of where the ATVers were parking, they didn't realize it, but where they were coming off the trail, they were parking on some private property, and our neighbor just simply didn't want them there. She brought it to our attention. We let the ATVers know, just simply friendly say, hey, that's not our property. You're welcome to be over here on this section of the property, or you can be over on that part. And we never had to say it twice. It was instantly done. It never came up again. So they were extremely respectful, responsive, and adaptive when asked. And interestingly, the other part is, whether it might be skidoos or events or the ATVs, we do occasionally get these kinds of rushes. The ATVers are excellent. So they're getting obviously smaller amounts of fuel and running back and forth to the fuel pumps, but it's never an issue. They always will identify themselves, get in line. They might be buying products, getting snacks. They're never leaving garbage around. Like they've actually assisted us, and they come through in a very orderly fashion, where of course we don't know when they're coming. And it hasn't been an issue. I've been just happened to be driving by and seen quite a crowd of the ATVs, and I've gone inside to check on the cashier, see how they're doing. Do you need a hand? No, they're always fine, because the ATVers just conduct themselves in such a way that they're used to, you know, coming through in a group, and they know what has to happen. So I can't speak highly enough of them.
Did you have to adapt with any signage at all? Did you find in terms of parking or anything like that?
So yeah, interestingly, we did get quite a bit of signage, and I believe we posted some of the signage, but we didn't have to post it all because it wasn't an issue. So, and the signs aren't very big. Like, we did put some signage up, and it was a very easy fix.
I mean, I think the bottom line is that if people know that they can access your facility, and certainly a club has directed them there, they would probably have an understanding of what you're able to offer and what you're not. So I'm more thinking about the individual rider or group that might show up that has never been there before. So I love that you've adapted that a little bit so at least people know what to expect. Sheila, I just wanted to ask you a question about your domes. First of all, could you maybe talk about, so I think you said 2016 was when you started. How many domes did you start with? And how have things grown, and how are they going to grow with potentially this new demographic, new business?
It won't affect the domes. We started with 5 domes and we still have 5 domes. We've expanded by building 2 new cabins. So the cabins are closer to the venue, which is where the larger parking lot is. Where our domes are, we can't accommodate the trailers. So for us, for the ATV groups, we'd be targeting the venue and the cabins. But we're hoping to get the venue finished by this summer, by the end of this summer, to be able to cater to groups. We're hoping for 8 to 10 people, groups of 8 to 10. That could all stay together in the venue. And then it's quite a large space. There would be 2 or 3 bedrooms, washrooms, a little bar area, big living room and a kitchen.
And are you going to be able to, do you have an opportunity for people to either bring in their own food or cater, or have it catered?
We don't do catering. We could probably find someone, but there would be a kitchen here for them to make their own food.
That's great. How would you like riders to find out about you? What's the best way for them to find out about you? In other words, do you see some advantage to being on a dot on a map, or a list on a trail? What would be the best thing for you in terms of promotion?
Yeah, absolutely. Being on the map would definitely help, because then people know, they could see when they're planning their trip where we are and which trails they want to go to and how many days they want to stay in this area. And then I find the ATV Club Quad Tracks was here and promoted the cabins, and that really helps, just being on their Facebook. Whenever we have an announcement or anything, they always push it, promote it for us. So that whenever we get the venue ready, we'll definitely be reaching out.
That's great. Thank you. Richard, I just wanted to ask you a little bit about the traffic and how you've dealt with increase in traffic, and have you had to adapt much with either human resources and or parking or signage, or how maybe you've adapted to larger groups showing up?
Yeah, we did not. The trail comes right up behind our facility, and we have plenty of parking there, so that has never been an issue. The adaptions were mostly in the human resources department. Like I had said, if we knew it was going to be a good ATV and weekend, we needed to have extra people there.
That's fairly simple.
Yeah.
But did you have advanced warning?
In most cases, we don't.
Right, so you're just predicting it. You're like taking a risk and let's ramp up
Yeah, that's,
staff.
now, pre-COVID, I guess the trails just opened, would it have been 2019, Peter, that we opened that trail through to Kensington? So that's when we noticed the biggest influx in business. Then COVID set in and we've been open, we've been closed, we've been takeout only, and we've been limited seating and all that other stuff. So it's been hard to predict here the last couple of years, but I think when things get rolling again here, it's going to make a major difference.
So I guess the same thing with as a restaurant, when it was takeout, you were obviously able to accommodate any kind of traffic, whether or not it was ATV traffic or drive-in traffic, walk-in traffic, for takeout, I guess. Is that safe to say?
we did do some takeout for sure. People had got takeout and sat in our deck and ate their food when they were ATVing. But like I say, the last couple of years have been different, and we're looking forward to getting it all behind us and getting them rolling again.
I think you're not alone in that. So, Jennifer, I wanted to ask you, and then maybe open the conversation to everyone after you respond to this. An important question came up about, okay, so how do people access, as an operator, how could they access funding or support systems for infrastructure or ways that they could collaborate more with a club? And maybe this is an open-ended question, but certainly I wanted to know whether or not there are ways that if an operator was interested in having ATV traffic as an example, what would be a way that they could access funding for, and it could be parking, it could be some other things. Or do you know of any sources that you're aware of?
That's a hard question. We're always looking for grants and always applying on grants for trail development and that kind of thing. If it was for a business that wants to be part of this and wants to drive the traffic to their business, and their best point of contact would be their local club that's near their business, to reach out to them and find out how we can get a trail to their business. The club can also reach out to us at the Federation and we can figure things out. We do have a lot of resources and information about various grants that are available. So whether it could be a joint grant or we can fit it into one of our projects or work with the business owner and do a collaboration.
That's great. I certainly have learned of a number of different grants that are available, whether they're funded through OCOA or through Tourism PEI, and individual operations may be able to take advantage of things. I do know the Ignition Fund is actually, the deadline's Monday, so get on it if you're interested. And I don't know whether or not that would suit your business or maybe your mission, but also I think I'm going to say CBDC. I'm not sure if that's the correct. I think it is CBDC has some opportunities to access some funding that are to open, reopen your business or new projects. Innovation PEI, for those of you who don't know, they have also funded a variety of different businesses that are trying to adapt or grow. In some cases, it's physical structure, it's purchasing equipment, it's depending on what your needs are. So I think that, part of that question, I think, came from an operator that might be interested in finding a way to connect with the local club. And so I almost feel like we need to create a really easy mechanism for operations to reach out, specifically to some, club that's in the area and go, okay, how can we do this? Because I think collectively, we all understand our own roadblocks and where we might have challenges, but quite frankly, the benefits of two people walking into somebody's office and talking, and trying to talk about a problem, and trying to solve a problem is going to be way more beneficial. Sheila, I just wanted to ask you on the funding question. Do you know of some funding, or is there access to funding that you've been able to source in past that might have benefited you?
Currently, right now, Alcoa is doing it, but there's a federal government funding right now called the Tourism Relief Fund. You can apply for up to 100,000 and they will, 50% of it is non-repayable. So that's a pretty big one right now. There's a few ignition funds that are out there, but they have a bit more qualifications that for the different businesses that Treetop doesn't qualify for. But the biggest one right now that I'm aware of is that Tourism Relief Fund.
That's great. Ramona, have you been able to access any funding or needed to access funding to do any sort of expansion or development?
Not in the Kinkora store. That doesn't really apply to us in our location in that way.
Okay, thanks. Richard, have you found a need or had a need or been able to access some funding at all for?
No, we have not. We've never tried to, or yeah, we've never required any at this point, I guess.
So I guess the question for operations is whether or not they see any obstacles, and maybe as an example, there might be an operation that doesn't have sufficient parking or even access to their space, and it's sort of like a treasure hunt, trying to find the points where access could be had. I hope from these discussions that certainly we'll have opportunities. I've already had several people approach me saying that they would be very interested in connecting the dots. And maybe a pilot is an event, that starts the ball rolling, and then you learn from an event how logistically, okay, well, we have some challenges that we gotta fix, and maybe it's a funding issue, maybe it's strictly, I think as Peter alluded to, there are ATV groups that do have and will help if they can access some funding as well. So I think it's really important to try and collaborate as much as you can, because ultimately there may be some benefits that an operation may get from collaborating with other organizations. Do we have any questions online or in person? Does anybody have any questions? If you could go to the microphone, please. That would be, you have to go to the microphone? Yes, you do. And if you could just say your name first so we know who you are.
Corrine. So Peter, you had said that one of the, because I'm short too, that the treasure hunt of not having a map, and that you said that you just finally got through to the government to approve a map because you got those key points connected. Do you think that that's going to be like a game changer to get your information out to the stakeholders so that we know where you're at and where you can go to?
Absolutely, because right now we don't have a face. Without a face,
if you're talking to her, you got that side.
You don't have to look at me.
So right now we have, that's the number one question is mapping. Where can I ride? Where can I ride? And by not having all the properties legally signed off yet, we haven't been able to release a map. There is maps out there floating around, that are shareable and that kind of thing, but not an official map. But yes, the map is an absolute game changer for us. First of all, it's in real time. So if the trail's open, if it's closed, it'll prompt you, and it'll also give us the opportunity to put everybody else on the map, whether it's the haunted mansion, whether it's the ship to shore, whether it's, the campground at West Point. Right. So this mapping system is the key, because right now people do not know, I shouldn't say they don't know, they're not sure where the trails are. Even our stakeholders don't understand where our trails are, and the government barely understands where our trails are because we can't produce a map as such. So it's going to help us identify where we are and where we aren't yet. And that will hopefully spearhead the trail development into services, into all the other things, experiences, and that type of thing that we need.
Cool. Okay, thank you.
And obviously, when it gets to that stage, then there's an opportunity for operators to then say, I want to be on the map. I want to be on the map. And I also want to have the things listed, coffee, washrooms, all the things that a rider can access or a visitor can access. Maybe there's some retail products that someone can purchase. Maybe there are, not only that, maybe it's a retail operation that wants to adapt and have certain key items that an ATVer might need. And I don't know what those are. You're going to tell me what they are, but I'll make sure I have some so that if someone in an emergency needs something, that I think that makes a lot of sense. Ramona, do you find that when visitors show up on ATV, as an example, are there specific needs aside from gas? Are there specific other needs that they might have in your retail location?
Well, for sure, the washroom is one. They have access to that, so that is definitely makes you part of a stopping point, right? And they're very often are getting the snacks for the road, the chocolate bars or chips or sandwiches or just something so they can keep going. And sometimes it's just literally they're stopping just to communicate. There might be one or two in the group that need something, but the rest of them just need a moment to kind of take a look at where they're going next, discuss what the plan is. Sometimes they just want to stop for a minute. So that's what we're seeing a lot of. And we do have alcohol that we have as well. So maybe they're getting that for later on consumption when they're off their ATV. So there are a variety of services that we offer. And the washroom is critical because it is public washroom, and there is some other services, that people just can plan a real trip around.
Thanks. Sheila, are there, and you'll probably identify this as you go along, but are there other products or services or requests that you've had from ATV riders or groups that you think you might be adapting or adding to your services?
The biggest thing that they ask for is for the parking lot, because some of them have tried to come and stay in Charlottetown, but the hotel parking lots just aren't really sufficient. So for us, because we used to do weddings here, we do have a large parking lot to accommodate the trailers. And then the other biggest thing is they just want to stay together. Like I said, they typically come in groups and want to stay as a group. And then another request that they've asked for, and the ATV club has been great with, is they'll ask for tour guides. So I just put them in touch with the ATV club, and then the tour guide will come here, meet them, and they're gone for the day, and they'll do that for a few days in a row.
Thanks, Sheila. I wanted to ask, and Jennifer, maybe you can respond to this, but there's a question here. Are we looking into shared use on Confederation Trail? And I think it's probably a number of things, but I don't know if you want to take that or if you want to pass that on to Peter.
The Confederation Trail is a hot topic, touchy subject. We have just recently acquired legal Confederation Trail crossings. However, at this time, and not really in the foreseeable future, would we ever have full access to the Confederation Trail. There are some pinch points, problematic areas in swamplands and mostly in Western PEI that may be looked at to see if there can be either a parallel trail beside the Confederation Trail to be able to just get through those problem areas. But as of right now, not looking into fully shared Confederation Trail.
I wanted to bring in Jacques. I don't know if you're still online, but Jacques Ouellette, I wanted to ask you with the map. I think in New Brunswick there's a map where you had talked about. I think people can access bylaws in certain areas so that people knew what they're allowed to do and not allowed to do. Are you still online by any chance, Jacques?
Yes, I am.
Can you speak to that a little bit? Just about the I found that very fascinating that people can actually access the rules, if you will, in certain regions.
Yes. Well, this was brought up by Alain earlier this week. What they do, and I'm telling you, we will be working on it at Quad NB also, to publish on our website all the bylaws of the cities or villages all around the province, which gives access to the riders. We, in many cases, the bylaws are posted on a big sign at the entrance of the trails or the roads or the exit of the trail before hitting the streets with the maps and the indication of where they have the right to go. And also what we did in some areas, we sell some sponsors or some signs to the businesses to kind of make themselves being seen before people hit the road. They can stop there and say, okay, if I want to stop to, let's say, an Irving station, here it is. This is where it is. And that's perfect. So we will be working on this. I will be working on this in the next weeks to add this bullet on our website where people will be able to click and go check the bylaws, the 18 bylaws that we have approved so far, and also the maps of those bylaws. But they don't specifically or uniquely show on our Quad NB interactive map. I will have to do a separate access. Got it. Okay, thank you. I wanted to talk a little bit about the notion of linking. If I'm an operator, I would love to let you know, the rider, that I welcome you. So maybe there's an opportunity for operations to have a kind of like a little stamp somewhere, and that could be an online thing that goes, hey, ATV friendly, or just so that they know that you, and that might mean, by the way, that they have to jump through a few hoops to get to that place. And that way the ATVer knows, or the visitor knows, that they've already checked, 5 of the 10 boxes, and therefore they're sort of a requested space. Say that again? Create a badge. Yeah, like a badge, like, okay, they're, in the music industry on PEI, there's something called export ready. Oh, you've got it already. Thank you. Good for you. Yeah, if you allow me to jump in, what we did is that we approached some businesses to become Prestige Club members. What they do, they offer a rebate to our members throughout the province. And once they approve it, they accept it. We put them on our website with the name and all the coordinates of the business, and also the rebate. The other thing we do also is on our website, we charge $100 to have the symbol of their position on our map on the website. When visitors, they can do a virtual visit. They click on that symbol and they see the whole information about the place. Okay. So once the businesses approve their being a part of our Prestige Club, I send them this little poster that they can put inside their building, and when our members reach that business, they know that the club or the place is a member of our Prestige Club, and then they can ask for what rebate they are allowed to.
That's great, but then now you're implying that I have to give you a discount, though, Jacques. That's what you just said.
Good.
Got it.
Good.
I see.
I'll take note of it.
I understand. Yes, we have a question at the floor. Yes.
Comment ça va, Jacques?
Ça va bien.
Am I able to access Am I able to access your demographic and economic information that you presented earlier?
I'll be happy to share it. Well, I think it's 15 megabytes, so it's too large to send by email. So what I can do after the meeting, get Peter to give you my email address, then I'll be able to send you the link to go get the PowerPoint presentation.
Merci beaucoup.
Un plaisir.
Do we have, we've just technically run out of time, but we still have some time for some questions, and I'd like to open it up. Does anybody have any questions from the floor? I just want to look at a couple of questions here. I see Jennifer says, does anyone know if there are trails that go through Stanley Bridge currently? Right now, there's a no, not at this time. And I saw, Ken, you had asked a question earlier, is there a copy of the agenda online? I'm hoping you found that already. I think there is something online already for the agenda. What will we be able to have available online afterwards? Is there any information, any documentation that maybe we can give to Jennifer that people could perhaps take advantage of? Is there any information from the Federation? So we'll make sure that somewhere on our Facebook page, the Heart of PEI Facebook page, that anything we can gather that's information related, we'll make sure we put on the Heart of PEI Facebook page, or even links to the ATV Federation, one or the other, just to make it easier for people to connect. I do want to take a moment, and if nobody has any other questions, because I think we're going to have lunch, and hopefully those of you that are here are going to have lunch. And sorry, those of you like Jacques that are not here, you get to eat your own lunch, but know that it's going to be fantastic either way. So, but I did want to officially thank Sheila, Ramona, Richard, and Jennifer for sitting on this panel. I think there's probably going to be lots more discussions that come of this, because we're really in the early days of trying to figure out ways that we can collaborate and move the needle a little bit forward. I think that there's an opportunity now for those of you that are sticking around for lunch here, make sure you connect with people that you have met for the first time, and also talk about what if. Like, don't be afraid. Talk about what if we were able to create a connection and a partnership, because that's what's going to, I think that what we do here is possibly going to be a great example for the rest of the island. So without further ado, I'd like to certainly thank Peter Mellish for helping to coordinate all you fantastic speakers. Thank you very much for being here, online and in person. Also for reaching out to all of the guests that have shown up today, both in person and online. And I'm trying to see if I have any other questions. It doesn't look like I do online. So why don't you give yourself all a big round of applause, and thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Thanks all. I think lunch is served shortly, so. Thanks, Richard. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for being here. I guess we don't have to record the lunch, right? You're good? Yeah, okay. I don't know, like. Shut it down in a second. Everybody said everything they want to say. Yeah, okay.
You did a phenomenal job.
Thank you very much.
And then there was a lot of work that went into the background of this.
No, thank you. I appreciate Peter really telling you. So.
Yeah, I feel so encouraged and excited about this. I think this